Hey guys, Rambo here with a Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies video. Oof, that's a mouthful. In this video I'll be talking about 10 different topics relating to the Zombies game mode that I think are worth tracking. Just sort of speculating and reflecting on various things as we near the release of the game. Anyways, let's get right into it. Number 1. Who will be the Zombies director? One of the big questions surrounding Cold War is who exactly will take over as director of the Zombies mode, the role previously filled for many years by Jason Blundell. Many people speculated that Lee Ross would take over the position, given his past experience as director of Infinite Warfare Zombies.
I feel like I'm at Hurls.
And his transition toward working for Treyarch in 2019. But just like Blundell, it was announced that Lee Ross would also be leaving Activision, thus eliminating the possibility of him taking over. One solid guess is that the lead writer of the zombie storyline, Craig Houston, would take over as director for this game, given his lengthy tenure at Treyarch spanning nearly 15 years, along with his many public-facing appearances throughout the BO4 season. Some people have cast a doubt on this theory of him taking over, citing his lack of managerial and technical experience, though I don't think that should necessarily disqualify him from the position. Another possibility is that Craig continues to serve as the face of Zombies in studio live streams and interviews and things like that, while a team of producers act as the leaders behind the scenes during this interim period where they don't have a leader. In any case, I think it'll be important for him to find someone who could connect really well with the community. Someone who's a little more accessible than Blundell, a little more competent than Jimmy Z, a little less salty than Lee Ross, a little less creepy than Cameron Dayton, a little more smart than... Number 2. Regression to fan service or radical innovation? I made a tweet all the way back in November 2017 where I compared the COD Zombies games to the Star Wars franchise. And I think I made a rather prophetic observation by comparing Black Ops 4 to The Last Jedi, before either of them had even released. You see, Black Ops 4 Zombies, with all its so-called innovation, produced a lot of divisive reactions from fans across the spectrum. Casuals and YouTubers alike weren't pleased with many of the changes made to the core gameplay mechanics, such as the overhaul of the perk system. Many dedicated community members have requested that Cold War reverts back on some of those changes made with BO4, and for the game to be almost like a Black Ops 3 clone of sorts. The community loved their Black Ops 3, let me tell you. They loved stuffing their mouths with mega gobblegums and riding the dragon on Gorod Krovi. This is where another Star Wars analogy comes into place, as I think Cold War has the possibility of falling into the Rise of Skywalker category, where it does a complete 180 and focuses on simple nostalgia and fan service in an attempt to win back fans who were disappointed by the previous installment. Now, obviously such a strategy can backfire, and I've long been of the opinion that Zombies should try to evolve and change up certain systems in order to keep the mode fresh. But I suppose there's always a fine balance that has to be struck when it comes to these maps nowadays, or else you end up outraging everyone on the COD Zombies Reddit. But I think COD Zombie fans should be very easy to win back. Most of them, they want the game mode to succeed. It's not like they have some resentment toward this mode. I could almost picture it in my head. The Cold War Zombies trailer cuts to a shot of the Juggernaut perk machine, with the jingle playing softly in the background. And unnamed Zombies YouTuber number 7 leaps from his gaming chair and shouts, "Lads, the nostalgia is real!" Number 3. Storyline options for the mode. I'm not a big storyline mark, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this topic, but there is some uncertainty as to what exactly will happen with the Zombies storyline in Cold War. For a while now, there's been rumors of an Aether storyline reboot, which is the classic characters that we've been following for over 10 years. In the most recent map, Tag der Toten, it was heavily marketed as the conclusion to the Aether storyline, and everyone cried and said farewell to Zombies and acted like it was the final map ever made for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, so this Aether reboot rumor would just mean we follow the same characters, but with the existing storyline being wiped. Another option is the continuation of the Chaos story, which are the characters featured in a few of the Black Ops 4 maps like 9, although fan reception to those characters was pretty lukewarm at best. And the story sort of seemed like Jason Blundell's child, so I think the Chaos crew may very well be a lost cause. I think fans will always have a hard time accepting any new characters, which sort of forces Treyarch to bring back the familiar faces, right? But at the same time, those characters also have sort of worn out their welcome as well. So they're in a lose-lose situation maybe? You know, Zombies is flopping, it's like time to pull out Richthof from your back pocket, right? It's like, oh, here fellas, here's Takeo. I have an updated note on my desk. Oh, while I'm writing the script and recording, there's more news leaking in? Okay. Well, it's okay. It's not like I spent a week fine-tuning the script only for news to come out and disregard my information. It's fine. No, really, believe me. So apparently there were some promotional materials released on August 26th, and it seems as if some of the campaign characters will be crossing into the Zombies mode. I don't know, this image doesn't seem very Treyarch-y to me. It looks like something out of World War II zombies. I don't know, it could be good, but the image itself is very uninspiring for it being our first look into the zombies mode. Number 4, compatibility with next-gen consoles. I think it'll be interesting to see how exactly Black Ops Cold War fits in with the next-gen consoles that are slated for release later this year. Cold War will mark the first time that a Treyarch game with zombies is released alongside a new generation of consoles. It's scheduled for a November 13th release, but the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions probably won't be out until later that month, when the consoles are finally released. It's sort of nice that there'll be a cross-gen bundle available for the game, rather than having to buy the game twice. However, let's suppose I wanted to switch consoles, right? And go from the Xbox One to the PS5. If I wanted to play Cold War as soon as it was released, I would have to buy it first on the Xbox One for $60. And then I would have to buy it again on the PS5 for $70 just a couple weeks later as well. What kind of bullshit is that? Just release the game after these new consoles are released, so people don't even have to consider making such a decision. Anyways, when it's all said and done, the game will be available on a total of 5 major platforms, which also means a greater chance of competitive discrepancy in the way that the Zombies mode functions across those 5 systems. For example, on a Zombies game mode like Dead Ops Arcade, there would be slight differences for certain aspects of the game across the different platforms, or even bugs that were exclusive to just one system. I don't know if other zombie maps have historically had similar issues as well, but I think it definitely could be something worth keeping an eye on, especially when we consider that the game will have crossplay enabled between consoles, just like Modern Warfare. Rambo, you could just play zombies on PC and that should be fine? Well, listen, I don't really remember asking for your dumbass opinion. Number 5, DLC model for zombie maps and console exclusivity. I'll be curious to see how the Zombies DLC model works for Cold War, since Modern Warfare and many other recent games have set precedent for free multiplayer maps post-launch. And again, more news coming in as I'm recording my video. It was also announced that Cold War will have free multiplayer DLC maps, and apparently also free Zombies content too, I guess? Although the wording of it is a bit ambiguous, I think. Where perhaps only certain zombie stuff is free, where other DLC might be paid, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The thing is, there's probably still a market for paid zombie DLC maps, especially since there's limited integration between microtransactions and the zombies mode, right? Like not many people are buying Liquid Divinium and Nubelium Plasma. I gotta give them props. I think they purposely try to make this shit like confusing, the names, so like less people buy microtransactions for zombies. Like I think it's like the Treyarch devs like trying to make sure no one buys this stupid bullshit. Where the hell was I? I gotta find my place on my script. I need my glasses. The thing is, there's probably still okay, I said that already. Modern Warfare could sort of get away with free multiplayer DLC maps and free Warzone because of the money that people spend on other items related to those modes, whereas Zombies doesn't quite have that same revenue stream from microtransactions. Going back to BO4 Zombies for a moment, the DLC model for that game had some serious issues that people rarely mention. For the first time ever, zombie DLC maps couldn't be purchased individually, so a map like Ancient Evil comes along, and I was sort of looking at it and I was like, hey, you know, this map kind of looks decent. Ancient Evil.
Ancient Evil.
Ancient Evil.
But oh, I couldn't buy it alone. I had to spend $50 for all the maps in order to play it. My response was, Black Ops Pass. The Black Ops Pass was an all-or-nothing model which deliberately encouraged purchases toward the beginning of the season when none of the fans knew which maps were going to be made. And since many of the purchases probably came in early into the season, there was logically not much incentive for Treyarch to devote resources to later maps. And of course, we ended up seeing remakes as the final 2 maps. And when it comes to Cold War having potentially free zombie maps, I don't mean to spin the good news of it being free into somehow being bad news, but with free zombie DLC maps, I could see it falling into the same pit hole as BO4's Black Ops Pass, where there'll be little incentive to release maps frequently or to make sure that they're really well polished and worth the consumer's money. Because people are not going to be like, oh, like man, like why did I buy the season pass, or why did I spend $15 on this map? It's riddled with bugs on launch. Instead, it's sort of going to be like, hey, it was free, like we can't complain, fellas. Well, I'm still gonna complain. Another thing sort of related to this topic is the timed exclusivity of content for Call of Duty games. With Black Ops 4, PlayStation was getting content one whole week before both Xbox and PC. But the thing with zombie DLC maps is that they're best experienced when they immediately come out, rather than a week later when most everything about the map is already figured out. But granted, 1 week is preferable to the typical 1 month exclusivity that existed for many years. But I think it needs to go away altogether. And I believe Modern Warfare was a step in the right direction, as I believe they got rid of that 1 week baloney, but instead they still had a deal with Sony where PS4 users would get the MW survival mode an entire year before Xbox and PC users. I mean, I don't think many people care about survival, so it's sort of whatever, but hopefully they don't do that with any of the bonus modes in Cold War. Number 6. Potential bonus modes for the game. One thing that I like a lot about the Black Ops games are the bonus modes included for zombies. Of course, as many of you know, I'm a really big fan of the Nightmares mode, and also a bit of a fan of Dead Ops Arcade 1 and 2 as well. And there's also Grief mode in BO2, which I played a lot as well back in the day. Now, I'm not trying to sound uber optimistic here, because that's sort of out of character for me, but I think there's actually a decent chance that both DOA and Grief will appear in Cold War. I know, blasphemy, save this clip, humiliate me with the career enthusiasm team when none of these game modes ever return for another 12 years. For DOA, there were some files found by a data miner on Twitter which suggested that DOA would be in the game, and would likely be unlocked and accessed via Warzone, rather than being unlocked through something like the campaign terminal in Black Ops 3. In case you're wondering how Warzone and Cold War are connected, essentially Warzone is going to carry over into the next COD game, and probably be the staple battle royale for the franchise in the foreseeable future. If DOA was indeed unlocked via Warzone, I think that would be very good for its popularity, and hopefully it would then become permanently available in the main menu after you unlock it just once in Warzone. Again, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here. I recommend that fans of the mode temper their expectations. Until we see the mode in front of us, it's all speculation.
Just so you know, we are big in the zombie community.
If there is DOA included in Cold War, I think we may very well see the Cosmic Silverback from DOA 1 make a return as the main boss, given the Cold War setting and also the Silverback's existing character model in BO4's Blackout mode. Well, Rambo, the Cosmic Silverback is dead, don't you know? Did you ever play the game? Yes, I played the game. My theory is that the Cosmic Silverback rises from his grave in the opening cutscene, sort of like Jason Voorhees or something, which would be very fitting since Cold War releases on Friday the 13th. I don't know, maybe it's a bit far-fetched, but I don't think there are too many cool adjectives that start with the letter C to describe the Silverback anymore. So we'll just have to settle for Cosmic again. The other mode that I said might also return is Grief. The reason I say that is because Blundell was open to the idea of bringing back Grief at the beginning of BO4, and I think there were leaks and rumors that said Grief was being worked on and would release alongside the remasters of Transit and Buried, which again, more rumors and leaks. Those maps were scrapped for BO4 and are supposed to release sometime during Cold War. However, if Grief mode does return, I don't think it'll play exactly the same as the original version of BO2. I think they'll make a few tweaks to the way that the mode functions. Another mode that I could see sort of returning is the Gauntlets mode from Black Ops 4, since they supported that mode throughout the entire BO4 DLC season. Other game modes like Turned and Rush were pretty much dead on arrival, so I don't see those modes making any sort of comeback in Cold War. Well, Rambo, I'll have you know that I'm a top 20 Rush player on PS4. Well, maybe I don't give a shit. Number 7. Potential launch delay and decreased efficiency related to the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, on March 16th, many employees at Treyarch began working from home, rather than reporting to the studio on a regular basis. With such a change, there are of course a couple of possibilities. One is that the developers feel less crunch and perhaps the new working from home experience helps spark some creative ideas for them. The alternative is that working from home has the potential to decrease their efficiency, or limit what they could do on certain aspects of the game from a technical point of view, in addition to employees missing out on some of the collaboration and problem solving, which is unique to face-to-face encounters with colleagues. But by all indications, such as this tweet from someone in the engineering department, it seems that Treyarch is doing a really good job at making sure that the developers have been comfortable with the transition over the past few months. But there's no denying that the existing working conditions have already affected the game in some capacity, as the marketing campaign for the game was delayed all the way into August. As for the infamous Zombies QA testers, I'm not quite sure if they're showing up to the studio or not in order to do their job, but if they're working from the comfort of their homes, the testers are going to run short on excuses if the game is riddled with bugs. Number 8. A return to form for leaderboards? I made a video on this topic last year, so I'm not really going to spend too much time on this point, but in Black Ops 4, the in-game leaderboard system underwent a massive overhaul, which saw the removal of basic and essential stat categories like rounds survived on a particular map, and even the elimination of global entries for any of the stat categories. In my opinion, it'll be very important to address this issue with the leaderboard system. If MW could get it right, surely Cold War could follow suit and bring leaderboards back in style. Oh, look at that. Brown Magician #1 on Warzone. I guess some things just never change. Black Ops 4 also had a feature called the Black Ops Authenticity Stamp System, or the BOAS system for short. If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you, as I don't think anyone ever checked it out, as it was rather pointless and redundant. But I could see the BOAS system making a return since they probably already have the technology for it in place and ready to be implemented into future games with little effort. Number 9. Creative vision of the co-developers. According to a Kotaku article from May 2019, Cold War initially started as a Raven Software title, with Sledgehammer Games supporting them. However, due to tension between the two studios, Sledgehammer was tossed aside like unordered broccoli, and Treyarch was brought in to clean up the mess. Which was a pretty drastic move on Activision's part, considering the move changes their recent pattern of having each studio develop games on a 3-year cycle, rather than just 2 years. I mean, a game like Black Ops 4 was made in 3 years, and while I enjoyed certain aspects of that game like Blackout or a couple of the zombie maps, you can't deny that the game had a lot of issues in the first few months of its release. So, logically, you would think such a problem would only be amplified when you have one less year to work on the game. Granted, they'll have more helping hands on this project from all the different studios, but maybe there'll be too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, we don't have all the details available, but Cold War was seemingly initially born from Raven Software, and then Treyarch had to come in and subsequently add their own style to the already existing framework from both Raven and Sledgehammer. But who knows, maybe Treyarch took over early enough into the project to where they revamped the entire game and made it their own unique vision. Anyways, I imagine Raven Software will be working on a lot of the campaign stuff and continue their work on Warzone as well, whereas Treyarch will focus on zombies and multiplayer. Oh, I got a note coming in? Okay, another note. What happened now? Oh, well, guess what? Based on August 26 stuff, Rambo was correct in his assessment. As a side note, I was reading some posts a while back which claimed that Raven Software was responsible for Kino der Toten. It seems almost impossible to verify this information, but I've seen it across like 3 or 4 different posts throughout the years. I mean, shit, if that's really the case, consider myself a Raven fanboy. Get them on the zombies mode ASAP!
I know you won't fail us.
Pre-order a digital copy and get early access to the open beta.
Number 10. Communication from studio. There are a vast variety of reasons why the reception of BO4 Zombies from dedicated fans was not too hot. However, it's long been my opinion that if you kept the gameplay in BO4 completely unchanged, but only tweaked the marketing and communication surrounding the game, it would have had a substantial impact on how the Zombies mode was received by fans. With BO4 Zombies, there were a lot of cases of promises that were never followed through, occasions of radio silence whenever there was a major issue related to the game, or even situations like alienating content creators by only having one capture event throughout the entire DLC season. Another issue that I alluded to very early on in this video is the fact that the Treyarch Zombies mode never really had a spokesperson on Twitter who communicated regularly with fans. The closest thing was Jimmy Z back in the day, but even he stuck to a rigid schedule of one cryptic tweet per week. Just simple updates from the team would be nice, making sure that the Zombies mode doesn't seem like the bastard child in the family of Call of Duty game modes. Maybe some fun events throughout the season, who knows, something like a free remaster of Nocturne Toten that suddenly drops on 115 day. That would be pretty cool and within reason, I think, rather than just giving us double XP or something like that. Or how about celebrating anniversaries, like the 10-year anniversary of the Zombies mode? That's a pretty important date, I think. But guess what? That was never properly celebrated. Instead, we got a massive QA leak on Reddit that same day, which spoiled a shit ton of stuff about the game and went completely unaddressed by the company. Not that they had to address the leaks directly, but, you know, maybe a little celebration for 10 years. I mean, they gave us a poster a few months before, but, like, people forgot about that at that point. It's like, give us, like, I don't know, like an emblem, something. Give us something. Anyways, that about wraps up the video. I plan on hopefully covering some more stuff related to Cold War as we near its release. Potentially, it just depends, I guess, on how I'm feeling about the content. And feel free to let me know some of your thoughts on the topics discussed in this video as well. If you even made it this far into the video, which I have my doubts. Maybe like 5 of you did, including me. Bye.